Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being so quiet in this room. It can be a challenge. My name is Danny Weiss, and for some time now, I've had the privilege to serve as Chief of Staff and Special Advisor to Congressman George Miller. Before we get to the heart of tonight's matter, I have a number of people that I would like to thank and recognize, in addition to our speakers behind me. Alex Knopf, the Chairman of the George Miller Portrait Committee and a former Miller staffer, and his assistant Elizabeth Cohen. The contributors to the Portrait Committee were listed in the program, and especially Bill Samuel, David Warren, Sarah Flanagan, who helped Alex raise the funds for tonight's portrait. Many members of Congress and former members of Congress who are here with us this evening from both parties. Labor Secretary Perez, who was here but had to leave just a few moments ago. Tonight, George Miller's three staff directors, John Lawrence, Mark Zuckerman, and Jody Calamine, as well as dozens of current and former Miller staffers are here. Several presidents of international labor unions are here, as are the heads of several prominent organizations whose work has meant so much to the committee. The Capitol Historical Society and its president, Ron Saracen, and our portrait artist, John Martin of Kansas City, who unfortunately could not join us this evening. So tonight, here we are. We will unveil the portrait of Congressman George Miller for his time as chairman of the Education Labor Committee between 2007 and 2010, a period that will be remembered as one of the most prolific in this illustrious committee's history. The unveiling certainly makes for a great party, I hope you all agree, but it's also an opportunity to take stock of a 4-year-long congressional career of standing up for the people, standing up for the children, the workers, and the environment. A career that never lost focus and that never gave up. This unveiling is an important opportunity to celebrate public service and the use of Congress's powers to help make America a better place. And the unveiling of this portrait is an opportunity on behalf of all of his current and former staff, his esteemed colleagues, and his constituents to say thank you to the Congressman who says thank you to us every day. This portrait will serve as a reminder of the Kansas Education and Workforce Committee Room of all hard work and accomplishments that were made together to guarantee millions of Americans access to health care, to forge bipartisan landmarks, to improve our public schools, to provide historic college aid, improve the wages of our nation's poorest workers, and treat hardworking women like Lily Ledbetter with respect and dignity they so richly deserve. George Miller's contributions to the laws that have helped grow and strengthen the middle class reflect the deeply held values of the American people and so many of us in this room and the Americans are joyous celebration. On January 24, 2007, when George held his first committee hearing as chairman, he said these words, "I am a partisan in the best sense of the word and proud of it. I defend what I believe. Yet my most important legislative accomplishments have been bipartisan, and I am proud of that fact." And I think tonight's lineup of speakers is testament to George Miller's good standing on both sides of the aisle in Congress. It is now my honor to introduce to you the former chairman of the Committee on Education and the Workforce, a man with whom George Miller both collaborated and tangled, to be sure. The current Speaker of the House, the Honorable John Baker.
There are many things I'd like to say. I'm not going to say it. Mark, button your shirt down or pull up your tie. Let me just say, I'm honored to be here tonight, not just as Speaker or just as a member of the committee, but as chairman of this great committee. And I see a lot of our former staff on both sides of the aisle are here tonight. Let me just say welcome. It's nice to see all of you. You know, the relationship that George and I have is built on the professionalism of the staff on both sides of the aisle. And in a way, it should be Paula Nowakowski and John Lawrence's portraits ought to be hanging. Given all the quality time they spent together, making sure that George and I could look like we knew what we were doing. You know, no one's going to confuse me and George for our same ideology. You know, listen, George and I could not be further apart. George and I had a fortunate occurrence several years before I became the chairman. One of our mutual friends suggested to me, he says, you know, George isn't a bad guy. He's actually a good guy, so now I have a drink with him. Down the end, wouldn't do you, all right? And so we did. We sat down and had a drink, and I thought, well, George is a great guy. I've been on the committee with him, you know, at that point for about 8 years, but I didn't really know George other than what I saw on stage. See, most of you know about you know, there are two Georges. There's only one of me. I can't do that. Well, we weren't throwing rocks at each other. We got an awful lot of things done. And of course, there's a story or two along the way. I go back to Austin, Texas after the long weekend. George W. Bush became president, or president-elect. They decided to have all of us down in Austin to talk about the president's education reform. And I asked him, I said, has George Miller been invited? Well, no. I said, well, I'm going to tell you something. I'm not going to come unless you invite George Miller. And so they did invite George Miller. And we were in the residence of the governor of Texas at the time. And Jim Gray decided, he looked at the name tags, and he was sitting next to President-elect Bush, and he switched the name tags and put George next to the other George. And in between these two little uneventful acts, George W. and the big George back here, Jorge, I think that became your nickname, right, George? Became soulmates on at least one issue. One thing I want to say about George, and this could be said about very few of us, that George could have served in any age of this Congress. Any age. You know, he means what he says. He's loyal to his team. He never holds a grudge. He can fight you to the tooth and nail on one day and be your best friend the next. I was a better chairman for having served with George, and the committee is better because of his leadership. And it will be my honor to accept this portrait in the House collection. George, let me just say congratulations. You're a wonderful human being. Done a great job on behalf of your party. And I would not have been a chairman had I had not been the chairman that I was if I had not had George Miller beat the crap out of me.
George became chairman and is now the chairman of the Education Workforce Committee, John Long.
It's not only my honor to be here tonight, but it was my pleasure and honor to serve with some really great chairmen. Chairman John Boehner, Chairman Buck McKeon, Chairman George Miller. George and I, sitting side by side on the dais for a number of years, we've actually solved a lot of problems. Unfortunately, only two of us have come to agreement here. He's been a great partner. He was a great chairman. He's a great ranking member. I'm very pleased to be here. But like former Chairman Boehner, his relationship with George, we don't vote alike very often, George and I. In fact, it was pointed out one time, somebody said to me, John, you know, every time you vote red, George is voting green, except for naming post offices or something like that. I said, well, yes, that's true. Nevertheless, we have been able to come together. And it just seems like just a few weeks ago, there was a bill, a charter school bill, and it was the Miller-Klein or Klein-Miller bill. And I know that when I went in front of a Republican conference to explain this, they said, no, wait a minute, is that George Miller? I said, well, yes, it is. And they, some shock there to get over that. And I talked to George, and he said he had a similar reaction in the Democratic caucus. I can't be saying Klein. But here's the thing. George has been a good leader. He's been a great leader. And he honors and respects this institution and the people who serve it. Members of Congress and the staff who are here to help get us over the line. He's been doing it for a lot longer than I. He's been doing it very, very well. And it is really a great pleasure for me to be here tonight for this unveiling. George, thanks for your service.
Speaker has been described by George Miller as the person he waited his entire political life to arrive in Congress. And in fact, when the Democrats developed an agenda in 2006 that helped them bring back the House that fall, they included two bills that were passed in the first 100 hours of the 110th Congress under her leadership and the leadership of Chairman Miller, to raise the minimum wage for the first time in nearly 10 years and to reduce the cost of borrowing for college. Please join me in welcoming the former Speaker of the House and the current Democrat leader.
How many people in this room have not voted for George Miller? I think we all have. Thank you, George Miller, for your great leadership. Thank you, Cynthia Miller, for sharing George with our country. It's an honor to be here with the Speaker of the House, the former chair of the committee, the current chair of the committee, Chairman Klein, with Danny, and with each and every one of you. We're all honored to be here to honor George Miller. He's a great, great person, a great American. You all know that. And anytime anybody needed a reminder in my office of that, John Lawrence was there to tell us. Thank you, John Lawrence. I have the task this evening, the honor of introducing George Miller to you. Now, you and I know, our colleagues who are here, Democrats and Republicans, former colleagues, Senator Dodd, so many others who were here, that George needs no introduction to you. So I'll present him to you. And as a Californian, our Californians, who are any Californians in the House? Who can do better than that? As a Californian, we take special pride in George Miller and his leadership. He is, I will present him to you, in my view, as a great Californian, as a great American patriot. You need only look at some of the displays here to see why I call George a patriot. He loves our country. We're here for the unveiling of this portrait tonight, but he's had another portrait unveiled. Talent is so great. Leadership is so recognized. One painting is not enough. That's the same for Henry Waxman, whereas there you go. What I talk about George as a patriot is the following. What is our country about? Our country is about opportunity, and George Miller's leadership has always been about that. About that is about opportunity and respect for workers in the workplace, as well as education for people to reach their self-fulfillment, but also to keep America number one. He has been a champion on education, and education is fundamental to a democracy, as is opportunity. Our founders knew that an informed electorate was what was important to a democracy, and George Miller has been Mr. Education in the Congress for many years. Not only but because of the personal attention he pays to children in the schools in his district and across the country. It's just remarkable, the personal greatness when it comes to education and other subjects. And another subject is the great effort for which he is a patriot, is protecting the natural patrimony, God's gift to America, our beautiful, beautiful natural resources. As chairman of the Natural Resources Committee, George was a protector of God's creation. That's part of America, the beauty of America. So as the education of our children, the opportunity for our workers, the beauty of our country, the arts which are expression of our freedom, there is absolutely no subject that you can name that George has not been in the forefront, including the fiscal soundness of our country. That strength important to George. Imagine 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago, he proposed that at the 1982 midterm convention in Philadelphia, pay as you go. Came along later under Clinton, reduced the deficit, fiscally sound, a strong leader in that respect as well. So whether it's healthcare, education, children's policy, equal rights, isn't it great that the first bill that President Obama signed was George Miller's legislation called a Lilly legislation? Was a legislator and was respected for his work because it was always evidence-based, based on fact and the best thinking and innovation. He would then, as you saw last year, they put together the innovation agenda for our country, maybe now 8 years ago. It came the Competes Act to keep America #1. Thank you, Patriot George Miller, for all. About George, I used to always say years ago, I'd say, if only we could clone George Miller, everything would be great. I didn't even think that was a controversial statement, and then as science advanced, something that I shouldn't be saying anymore. But in any event, he's such an original, there couldn't be more than one. But he has served, as I say, not in one capacity as chairman, not only of 2 committees, but chairman of the co-chair of the Steering Policy Committee, chair of the Select Committee of Women and Children, Infants and Families, and all of that. I have the name right, John? No, I don't. It's what I call it. In any event, for these and so many other reasons, George Miller's legacy in the Congress will be one for the ages. His leadership is legendary and serves as a model to others. His respect for the newest member of Congress, whom he calls the fresh recruits, here they are, who among them will be a leader in the Congress, the governor of the state, the president of the United States. That's the kind of respect he gives to the newest members of Congress, and that is reflected on how he treats them on committee as their chairman. So his leadership has been inspirational. He has been a story of success and progress. His voice will forever echo in these halls as a stirring principal leader for the causes of freedom, justice, equality for all. That's why I call George Miller a great American patriot. Thank you, George Miller, for 4 decades at least of service to the American people. We all wish you and Cynthia and your entire family the best in the future. It is now my pleasure to yield the floor to the great American patriot, Chairman.
I'm not a big events guy, and this was pretty big for me. So thank you very much for being here, all of you. Madam Leader, my speaker, thank you so very much for your kind words To John Boehner, as he said, I don't have to hang around and listen to what you're going to say, do I? Because, you know, I don't agree with most of it. I thought it was so generous that he would say most of it. Very thoughtful of him. And John Klein, both John Boehner and John Klein, we had a great working relationship on the committee. As we said, we didn't agree on a lot. We got a few things done, and sometimes we got a lot of things done. And I appreciate that effort. I also want to recognize Buck McKeon. I don't know if he was here. Yeah, there. Buck was there. Now, this is the bipartisan chairman. I'm wrecking your reputation. We were absolutely convinced that we could do a bipartisan reauthorization of No Child Left Behind. And all I want to say is the right and left were equal opportunity. They shot both of us out of the saddle. But thank you, Buck, so much for all the contributions you've made on the Education Committee. I see two other of my Republican colleagues here. Tom Cole. Tom, I met late one night, I think actually with John Klein, smoking cigars. And we started up a friendship, and I learned a lot about a pragmatic, insightful approach to politics, where you don't get too excited that every time somebody on one side or the other says something, you just watch it and see how it goes. It's been a fun, free friendship. It's usually me who's running off and waving my hand, so it's hard for me to stay down that long. And my newest friend, Billy Long, from Missouri. Billy announced when he came in the room, he wasn't here because he's my friend, he came here for the food. So he took a tour of the room, and I think he's getting ready to leave. I don't know. But thank you so very, very much for joining us, and to all my colleagues here in the caucus and our delegation on the committee. Thank you for all of your support over all of these years, and thank you for being here tonight. It makes a great deal to me. And to Alex Knock, who headed up the committee for the portrait, I want to say thank you to him, and to Elizabeth Cohn, who helped him, and to all of the contributors and the people who have made this night possible and the portrait possible. I'll speak more about the portrait in a minute. And to John Martin, who was the artist for the portrait, wonderful man. We had a great time together. Unfortunately, other commitments kept him from being here. But he told me he followed my instructions to make me look a little younger and a little bit more smart. And I do have to be the judge of that in a minute. It's been said a couple of times here that there's a lot of Miller staff in the room. And I want to thank all of you for being a Miller staff person at one time or another on the committee or the personal office and my district office. It's always been very clear to me that I've absolutely been blessed with great staff people. And John Lawrence got more, there's a portrait here of you, John. The staff directors, John Lawrence, Mark Zuckerman, Jody Calamine, Danny Weiss, in her personal office, and thank you for all of your leadership on the committee. But I just want to say that my approach has always been that this is a joint venture. I can go nowhere without the staff, and they can't go anywhere without me. They pay for these jobs. And that's the way we've always approached it. We do it by saying please, by saying thank you, and acknowledging contributions that people make. And as a result, they've worked in absolutely the most amazing fashion to try to move social policy in the right direction in this country, to get good legislation out of some bad ideas sometimes, and better legislation out of good ideas. But they've been absolutely remarkable. And I have to say this, that I hear a lot from former staffs in different parts of the world and the country. I'm just so proud of what they've accomplished and what they're doing after they left our office and left the committee. It's just been a joint venture. And it's just that simple. And I'd be a fool to suggest anything other than that. With Henry Waxman and Tom Harkins and my announcement, that closes out the Watergate babies. But we were smarter than all the other classes. We sent a placeholder, Rick Nolan, to come back. He's the advance guard. He's going to hold a few seats. We're going to test civilian society. And if we get scared out there, he's holding the seats for us. So thank you very much. And Chris Dodd, we left a little early, but Chris, thank you so much for being here tonight and for all you have done for this country. To all my colleagues, it's been wonderful working with you. We all have different groups and participations on different issues, and I'm so proud of our California delegation. As we know, we look like America, and we're proud of that. We worked hard that could happen in our delegation. And again, Nancy, I want to thank you for all the work you've done to put the diversity into our caucus and our committees. Fairly obvious, I came to Congress in 1975. I wanted to do good things for children, to see that they had a healthy life, that they had a shot at the prize of being born in America, and the equal opportunity to pursue that quest, to be a full participant in our economy, in our democracy, in our society. And serving on the Education and Labor Committee, I apologize to my 3 other chairs. I just can't refer to it by any other name than that. But it's just, the difference between some of you in the audience and me is you forget sometimes. I never forget. But it gave me an opportunity to pursue those interests with the incredible jurisdiction of the committee. And the first law I authored was the Women's Infants and Children's Program, along with Senator Humphrey and others. And then nearly 40 years later, I consider leaving the Congress here in a few months, working hard and having, again, the opportunity to pursue early childhood education and early learning opportunities for our children and minimum wage for the families and workers who so desperately need it. I joined the Education and Labor Committee because I thought that it had a jurisdiction that spoke to the everyday concerns of the people and families that I asked to vote for me and that I have represented ever since then. When I got on the committee, it was a cauldron of turmoil. I used to joke and say you could have an idea in the morning, you could get it passed in the afternoon, and you could be at the president's desk in the evening, but you had to fight to the left to get there. It's a joke. There were big people like Augustus Hawkins from California, Carl Perkins from Appalachia, that all he knew about the federal government was it saved a lot of people and his family's lives by taking them out of the coal mine and putting them into highway construction crews and building crews and water plants and sewage plants and the rest of that. To Dale Kildee and Patsy Mink. How about that Patsy Mink in Title IX? How about so much that she did for this country. And Bill Ford, remarkable member of the committee from Michigan, and John Bradley's remarkable member of the committee. But then, of course, there was Phil Burton, my mentor. I was pretty sure I wanted to be on the Education and Labor Committee. After I met Phil, I was absolutely sure I wanted to be on the Education and Labor Committee. I got a little uppity one time, and I thought, well, maybe I should go to the Ways and Means Committee where the big boys play. So Phil said, you don't really want to do this? I said, yeah. I said, well, there's a big turnover this time. If you want to do this, but you really should stay on the Education and Labor Committee. I said, well, you're our regional whip. You can get me on the committee. You're on the State Policy Committee. Well, let me see, I'll try. You know the end of the story. First ballot, that's when you ran around and ballot. Nobody switched to Lang Russo used to be in a room. He said, George, you need 17 votes. I got you 16. You want a second ballot, George. I got you 16 votes. Even George's light was on my head. Phil Burton can't find one more vote on the next ballot. 2 guys have dropped out. of this office in this Congress. And it's always stuck with me that that was my job every day when I got up, was to pay the rent for the privilege of being here, the privilege of being able to work on behalf of vulnerable workers to make sure that they receive fair wages, the bedrock right to join a union, and the honor of working with John Boehner, George Bush, and Ted Kennedy on No Child Left Behind to change the civil rights of poor and minority children and women children all across this country. And I want to thank John Klein for working on the charter school bill. That bill wouldn't have passed with one party or the other, and we were able to work it out between both parties. And working I love, which is on behalf of the coal miners. I inherited from Phil Burton. He worked on their behalf, and these are the people who were down in the mines every day in the most dangerous occupation in the country. And I'm so proud to have made their association with friendships and to know their families and to exchange Christmas cards. And I wish them safety every day that they can return home to their families at the end of the day. What an honor it was to meet Lily Ledbetter and have her testify in our committee. When she testified, she spoke in that wonderful Southern drawl. I leaned over and I said, "We're going to get this book." We didn't even need more testimony. She knocked us dead with the story of how she'd been cheated out of her pay, her fair pay, her equal pay, and the loss of her Social Security, her pensions, and the rest of that. And that makes you want to get up and go to work tomorrow morning and do the same thing over and over again. But finally, we come to the Affordable Care Act. I can't thank Speaker Pelosi for giving us the opportunity to work and to fight. Sandy Levin, Henry Waxman, and so many in our Congress, so many in the Congress across the country. When I ran in 1974, I campaigned on national health care and ending the war on Vietnam. Barbara remembers those. And when the President signed the Affordable Care Act at the White House, I got two things happening. I got goosebumps because I was so honored to participate. And secondly, for the first time it dawned on me, maybe it's time to go home. And thank you. I'm leaving Congress because it's time to go home. 40 years, a wonderful run. I'm proud of everything that I've done, and I'm proud of all of you that have helped me accomplish all of that. My colleagues, leadership, my staff, and I'm so proud that Tom and Billy are here, because I couldn't say a negative word about the Congress where I had this privilege, a kid from Martinez, to serve. But we all know it has to change. And I think these kinds of relationships are an opportunity. We don't agree on much. Not much. But you know what? We can have a civil conversation. We can ask questions about one another's caucus and what might happen, and what do you do this, and play it out in different ways. And somehow, we can arrive at a conclusion that moves this country forward. And that's important. That's important. I see my Sam Farr here. My Sam Farr and I have known one another since we were in grammar school. And he's the most optimistic person in the world about what can be done in government on behalf of people to make their lives better, to make our communities better. He needs another opportunity. This Congress has to figure out how we can give those opportunities to members of Congress on both sides of the aisle. So thank you so very much. But I'll also say this. It's time to go home because it's Cynthia. Come here.
Marty, he's trying.
Oh, jeez, Marty. This has been my rock, this magnificent person for 50 years of marriage, 40 years in the Congress, so we survived 50 years of marriage. Wow. This bi-coastal thing has something. And she's been my cheerleader the whole way. When I had doubts, she said, go for it. If you want to stay, stay. If you want to come home, do what you think, where you think you can make the best contribution, what's good for you. And that's been our relationship. And there's a lot of spouses here. Joan, imagine living with Dave Roby, then you live with George Miller. Huh? It's not easy. It's not easy. But we draw a great deal of strength from our spouses. And Cynthia signed on for this journey at a very, very young age. And we made it, and here we are. Thank you so very much for all your support, all your help.
Drum roll.